Hey, it's Ann Heath with today's special presentation. Yesterday we went over mistake number 1, asking for too much information. If you missed it, you can click the link and watch it first. Today I'm going to be going over the final 2 mistakes and I'll give you some tips to help you avoid them. So let's just get right into it.
Another mistake churches make is when they try to speed date their new guests. You have to keep in mind that every weekend is someone's first weekend with you. We need to provide them with a first date experience, not a speed dating one. So, what do I mean by speed dating? Speed dating is when you're only interested in getting to know someone quickly, and it's usually only surface level. You're only checking off certain boxes and then moving on to the next person. It's pretty difficult to start a relationship with someone this way. Church speed dating is engaging with your guests with the intention of getting them into your process and providing them with the most information about your church in the shortest possible amount of time. And this can be really overwhelming for your guest. We need to think of that first visit as the first date. Think about going on a first date. That's when we're sometimes the most creative, most attentive, and are laser focused on just connecting and building a relationship with someone we don't know very well yet. That's what your first time guest is likely to you. You don't know each other yet, but you would like to get to know each other better and start a relationship. Having a first date approach moves that stranger to a friend, and eventually they become like family. The key aspect in dating is to at least get to the second date, then the third, then it becomes easier after that. For churches, your guest follow-up process has to be more aligned with this and not with a speed dating atmosphere. Remember, we're not competing with other churches. We all share a common goal, and there are plenty of people that need Jesus. But one of the biggest pushbacks we see over and over again is from people who are following a one-size-fits-all template. An expert said you needed to text and call and send a coffee mug, write a handwritten note, or send a Starbucks gift card as part of your intense 6-week follow-up process. And I'm sure this can work, but what if it could work better? What if you could spread out collecting their information from 1 form to 2 forms in a longer process? Is this not what you would do when dating? People are people, and people function the same way. Even if they give you their address, they might hate the idea of having to give it to you when they don't really know you yet. Remember, you don't have to have their address the first visit. Instead of hand-delivering a gift to your guest's doorstep, why not give your first and second time guests those gifts when they're actually there in person? All right, moving on to mistake number 3. Mistake number 3 is when the church's process is church-focused and not guest-focused. Is your process easy for you but challenging for your guests? Give them options to choose from. Every person will respond differently to different options, and that's why we encourage having an and strategy versus an either-or strategy. Churches should be using physical connect cards and check-in kiosks and digital capture options, not either-or. You also need to be testing out different methods to see which works best for your church. Don't just follow the crowd and the experts because really, there is no one-size-fits-all church's method for the guest follow-up process. You need to be able to be flexible and tweak your process to your guest's needs and wants. So start first by defining your process on paper before rolling out the tools. What is step 1 and step 2 and step 3 and so on, and who is going to be in charge of each step? Then you can add the tools to your process. And don't just stick with what seems to work versus actually tracking the data, because data won't lie to you. So after reflecting on this for a bit, ask yourself, is your current process really working? Is there anything that you could tweak or add to make it even better? Churches will sometimes get stuck on things like, this process works well for us, or We get all the information we need and they don't look at it any further. Try and remember to always view your process from the guest perspective, like Jesus did. Minimal but intentional. If 5 people come to your church, but only 3 fill out your Connect card, then that's 60%. But what if you can get a better number than that just by adding more options for your guests? Remember, when using digital Connect cards by themselves, you need your guests to know the website and have access to it. So it needs to be an easy-to-remember website. The biggest issue with this is you're relying on them to remember to go back to it to give you the information that you want. But people don't really like giving out their personal information in the first place since they're usually not sure how exactly their information will be used. The other option is to ask the guest to text a keyword to your number to have a link to your digital Connect card sent back to them. Like we mentioned earlier, this was the best practice back in the day, but the guest would still have to text and click and load and fill out all the information and hit submit after they're finished. So they may decide to do it later, they may forget, and then they may fall through the cracks.
All right, I hope you got some good value from today's presentation. We discussed mistake number 2, trying to speed date your new guests. We also discussed mistake number 3, having a church-focused process versus a guest-focused process. And I hope you're clear on some ways that you can avoid making these same mistakes. A few days ago, we discussed the evolution of the church follow-up process and mistake number 1, which is asking for too much information. If you missed any of these videos, you can click the link and check them out. Tomorrow, we're sending you one final training, and I think you're going to like it because we discuss the tools that our church clients use to help implement an ideal guest follow-up strategy. So I'll see you one last time tomorrow.